There you go.
George McEwen married Mercy Wright at the home of her parents in Shaftesbury, Vermont on November 12th, 1783. The summer after their marriage, he came to Ferrisburgh and helped build the first sawmill in the town of Ferrisburgh at the foot of the Big Otter Creek Falls, which is now part of Regents. During the summer, he came to Heinsberg, where he built a one-room shack, and it had a split log floor with a wigwam-shaped fireplace. He also put up a stack of hay. Back in Shaftesbury, he built a sled for his oxen. He built a tub, wooden tub, with a very nice cover. This tub he filled with salted meat. And then in early February, they left for Heinsberg. His wife, a hired Dutchman. He had one horse, a team of oxen, and 2 cows. They got as far as Moncton Pond. The snow was 4 feet deep. They had to leave Mrs. McEwen behind, go ahead and break a path through the snow. They went back, got Mrs. McEwen. They put a feather mattress on the top of the horse. They put her on top of the mattress, handed her a basket of dishes, and in this manner they finished their trip to Heinsberg. When they got there on February 26, 1785, she did not see any white women until April. They loaned one of their cows out because they didn't have enough hay to feed them. But the cow got so poor, they had to take her back. They kept her, they decided to keep her in a corner of the cabin because she was in such poor condition. And they put up 2 poles across the corner of the cabin, and that's where they kept her for 2 weeks during the nighttime. On one of those nights, the cow reached over and pushed a pot of bean soup off the dresser, and it landed on a Dutchman's face, who was sleeping on the floor because they had not had time to make beds yet. The next summer, all 5 ladies from the town of Heinsberg got together and had a tea. There was a Mrs. Chaffee, a Mrs. Turtle, a Mrs. Lawrence, and Mrs. McEwen. Also during that summer, Mercy made 36 cheese from the milk of those 2 cows. Also, they built a new log cabin just north of where the brick house now stands on Gilman Road. In the fall, or in the winter, the next winter in November, Mercy, who was 7 months pregnant, and George left their cabin and journeyed to Lewis Creek in Moncton, where the banks were overflowing. And George told her there was no way they could cross, but Mercy said, "I'm going." So she got off the horse, he got on and rode across the creek. Got off, or he turned around and came back, got off, she got on and crossed the creek. And then she left, they separated, and she went to Shaftesbury. She was 7 months pregnant, she was alone, riding a horse, but she had no worry about getting lost because the trees were well marked. In January 6 of 1786, James McEwen was born. And in March, she came back with James in her lap in a sled that her father had given her to her cabin in the wilderness in Heinsberg, where she spent the rest of her life. In the fall of that year, in the winter, she was summoned to be a housewife, a midwife for the birth of the first white child in Heinsberg, which was born on Joseph Peters' farm. The snow was so deep that they couldn't take the horse, so she had to walk. Her husband went ahead and broke a path. She went as far as she could go. Then he carried her for a ways till he couldn't do it anymore. Then she got down and walked some more, and then he carried her. And in this manner, they made it to the Peters farm, where she delivered the first white child. They lived there in Heinsberg for the rest of their married life, well, actually the rest of their life. They were the 5th family to come to Heinsberg, and they were the beginning of the town. He was one of the first 3 selectmen in the town of Heinsberg. He lived here until he died on February 27th, 1813. She remarried and lived in Orwell for 2 years. When her second husband died, she came back to Heinsberg, and she lived there until she died on December 27th, 1847. Thank you. That was short.
And what relation would that be to you, John?
Mercy and George had this son that I have just told you about, James. James was my great-great-grandfather. He lived up on Route 116 in South Heinsberg, and the farm that I know is Rick Tracy's farm. I don't know who lives there now. But I can't prove it, but I think that he built that house. And he's buried in the cemetery across the road. His daughter, he had a daughter named Mercy also. She married Seymour Pierce. They had 4 children, 3 daughters, and 1 son. Their son was Coburn Wright Pierce, and he was my grandfather. His son, Harrison, William Harrison Pierce, was my father. And Cobb and Kate Pierce lived on your place, Marshall Laird's farm in Silver Street, until 1892, where they moved to this spot where the elementary school is now. And they both lived here until they died. She died on May 12th, 1934. And he died on July 22nd of 1944.